Start now. So today we have special guest, Rick Kellow. I take it Beth is busy right now, or is she?
Yep, she's off campus.
Got it. Well, welcome Rick Kellow, one of the co-founders of the Great Plate. And what we want to talk about today is just have Rick, as we discussed in class, give a kind of just a presentation on the company, key events that happen along the way, where they're at, what they're doing, but then also allow you folks not only time for question and answer, but Rick, it's okay if they ask questions during your presentation? Okay.
Yeah, this is all about you guys and trying to figure out what a UW graduate from the business school ended up doing for inventing a plastic plate. I spent the last 35 years of my career in the mortgage industry. So if you guys can figure out how you tie those two together, I'd like to know.
It tells you, like, you never know where life is going to lead you. So
Right.
a little background, Rick and I went to high school together, West Bend West, the class of, we won't say what class, but it's a while ago. And gosh, after high school, after college, hadn't really heard from each other. And then all of a sudden I got word that this guy named Rick Kellow invented this plate, and we got kind of connected and through talking with each other, he and his wife, Beth, have been speakers in various classes, and it's a really interesting story. I don't just like to have people up here who say that, yeah, we started a business, but people who have a story that I think there's a lot you can learn from it along the way. So with that said, as I mentioned, Rick, as you see the slides, just tell me when to say next slide when you're ready. And again, if you have questions, try to raise your hand beforehand. I think Zoom has that good feature, and I'll just try to get to people as we go. So instead of we having multiple people talk at one time, but feel free to ask questions during the presentation, and we'll allow for some time after. I've got some questions to ask in addition probably to what you may have, but we'll just go ahead and we'll turn it over to Rick Kellow, the founder, inventor, and CEO, co-CEO of the Great Plate. So Rick, it's all yours, and I'll turn off my video.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, and nice to Zoom meet everybody in these COVID era that's going on right now. So any interaction between us with Phil and the questions is going to let me know that people are still awake and listening to this. Phil, can you jump us to our next slide?
I sure can, Rick.
Okay, the picture in the upper left is the most cryptic, comical picture I could possibly come up with. That's the drawing that started this whole thing moving forward. We had kids, and I mean kids that were in high school at the time, playing video games downstairs. We had a projection 8-foot screen, and it would play Band of Brothers and Halo with the lights off and a surround sound system. Bottom line, we turn the lights on and there's drinks spilled, there's chips, there's all kinds of snacks on the floor. I came upstairs and said to my wife, we need to go buy a plate that they can use downstairs. She said, what are you talking about? I said, like this. That scribbling was not meant to manufacture anything. It was just meant to say, we need to look for this at the store. We went to Walmart and a few others, couldn't find it. We went online, couldn't find it. About a week later, having lunch with a friend of mine who owns a tool and die shop, it just came up in conversation saying, we're trying to find this. He said, well, let's take a look at making one. So what you see down below there was a 7 or 8 years ago. He milled out a piece of resin and he heated up some sheet plastic, which is what you see in black there. And we molded 6 plates moving forward. That's the round version. We'll show you the square version shortly. Right after that, we had lunch about a week later. He said, hey, I made those samples for you. You want to take a look at them? Sure. We liked it. We threw a drink in the middle. It looks a lot like a chip dip. It's not. It holds a lot differently. But effectively, that's one of the issues that we had with the product initially. Later, we did the CAD drawings, which you see a picture of on the other side, the underside of the plate. What happened was he also handed me a bill for $5,000. And for those of you who are married or in a relationship, in my house, we talk about these things. And when I came home with a $5,000 bill without talking to my wife about it, she pretty much said to me, this project is going nowhere. And it was pretty much shelved for about 2 years. We gave one to our son who was at the Art Institute up in Minnesota. He was using it to play video games with friends that came over. Through constant prodding, he said, we should make these. We looked into manufacturing them domestically, and basically we figured out that it would cost us approximately $50,000 for a single cavity mold. We asked around about it, and we knew some people at CVS Pharmacy, and they came out and gave us a purchase order for, I'll remember this number very well, 141,612 plates. So we were off to the races right away. We ordered the mold, and that's the beginning of it, Phil. So why don't you jump ahead if you wouldn't mind, Phil? So fast forward, that's a picture of the new square grate plate. One of the novelty things about it is it's about 30% larger. It doesn't have the identity crisis of a chip and dip piece. And if you'll notice, we cut a slot in it on the bottom, on the right-hand side, where it does accommodate stemmed wine glasses. Later, I'll try to give you a better visualization of that. But the interesting thing about the identity of the product, in addition to being made in the US, is that it came from what they thought was a child's product where it didn't tip over to where it holds an adult beverage. Not that the cup wasn't already a solo cup on steroids, but now the fact that it holds stemmed wine glasses brought us into a new area. Can you jump to the next slide, Phil? So here's a little bit of demographics for you. I'll tell you the numbers and the purchases in the beginning, but looking back at it, typically it's purchased by women between the ages of 30 to 75. It's a quality product. They like it because it's reusable, it's sustainable, and it's used by families mostly. We have done very well on QVC and on Amazon. The square grate plate, we'll talk about that briefly, but the reviews are through the roof. We're seeing a lot of people giving them as gifts. Next page. We've gotten some national publicity. We've been on the Food Network. We've been on Rachel Ray. We've been on the Today Show. We've been on a couple of lifestyle programs, and we've been on national TV on a number of things. This has caused us to shoot up with our online sales. Obviously, any kind of recognition like that. And we're also doing some social media work right now as far as TikTok and Instagram. Next one. Pretty much to talk about this one right here. The interesting thing about the plate is when we did a demographic study on it, we found that kids use it, adults use it, seniors are using it, and we're actually working with the National Parkinson's Association right now, developing an anti-slip mat that it slides into so that the developmentally challenged, the ones with the Parkinson's or epilepsy that shake, can use it on there, and it will cause the cup not to fall off and it doesn't shoot across the table. Colors have been a big issue. People have been identifying with colors, and that helps us. It also gives the wine charm effect, if you will, as to whose plate is whose and how to identify it. Can we flip over? All right, sustainability. Not only is it recyclable, when we decided to make something that we've never made before, and again, I don't know if anybody heard this in the beginning, we're not inventors. We're not this kind of group that decides that we're going to make a killing doing it in the inventing world. We already had a successful 35-year career in the mortgage industry and ready to retire. So this was something that came about as an offshoot of this. We actually make more money selling plastic plates now than we do in the mortgage industry, and the mortgage industry has been very good to us. But what we did was we made it out of plastic in a way that it would be dishwasher safe, microwave safe. It is recyclable, but the thing that's crazy about it is that we have zero scrap. So if we have a problem in manufacturing, one or two, or if there's a short shot or something like that, we simply grind up the material and we make it into another plate. Phil, I'm going to have you jump ahead 2 slides. Okay, the next one is the what was required. I just got done telling you that it was dishwasher safe and that, but the thing that was interesting about a plate, and hopefully you can see this, is that if you take a round or a square grade plate, and a lot of times you'll see it on the shelf and it says top rack only. Well, our top rack of the dishwasher would come right about here, and that wasn't going to work. And the other thing that was interesting about it is if you were going to put it in the top rack, it's either going to collect with water here or it's going to collect with water here. So this required that we use an even more stringent plastic so that we could go in the bottom rack of the dishwasher, which was unheard of, which means you had the highest degree of heat sources that were going to be around it. The other thing that we did in the process, if you look at it, and again, I apologize, I think, Phil, we're going to have samples in their hands on Tuesday. Is that correct? Phil?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Did you nod off?
What's that?
Did you nod off?
No. I just had it unmuted.
Gotcha.
Had it
Okay.
muted, I mean.
Well, one of the things about it is you'll notice that as it sits here and it goes in the bottom rack like this, it comes out completely dry. There's no places that were encapsulating any water on an item like this. One of the things is that if I have to empty out the dishwasher, I don't want to be wiping dry dishes. So it comes out perfectly dry, goes right back in stacks. All right, next slide, Phil. All right, one of the things that was important is we wanted to make this domestically. In order to make it domestically, we had to have very little labor or very competitive labor with overseas. Right now, what we have done is we did robots and we automated everything. Right now, we're able to manufacture this part cheaper than we can manufacture it in China. That's before all the problems they had with the containers coming into the country. Right now, it's a very good time to be a US manufacturer. Walmart is loving our product. What cost $3,000 to bring in from overseas about a year ago is now costing between $15,000 to $25,000 per container. That gives us a very good decided advantage as far as what's out there. Next slide. We launched on QVC 4 years ago. 4 years prior to that, we had tried every year in order to get onto QVC. QVC told us that a product like ours is not a product that sells. We were eventually able to convince one of the hosts to give us a shot. That's my bashful wife on top of the first load that we shipped to QVC. It was a full truckload. It was 5,000 sets of plates. They told us that they would give us 3 airings of about 10 minutes each. And if we didn't sell out, everything that they had in stock remaining, we would have to take back. And we'd have to pay for the shipping both ways and any additional expenses for airtime. We took the option. It was about $50,000 worth of product that we shipped into them. The night that it aired, they do what they call a walk-up. If I'm talking too fast, just ask questions. But basically, the host walks up to the show host and says, "What do you have for me today?" And it takes about 3 minutes for them to recognize that what this product is and whether the consumer is interested in buying it. So about the first 3 minutes of a 10-minute segment are wasted. And as we're watching this, and I'm watching my watch, wondering how this is going to go, they start to wind it down after 7 minutes. Obviously, knowing that we have a very large financial position involved, it caused a panic. About 10 minutes after we were off the air, the gal that was showing the product called us on the phone and said, "What did you think?" I said, "Obviously, it didn't go very well because they cut us off early." They cut us off early because we sold out. And we've had subsequent sellouts since that time. This last weekend, we did our 50th show with QVC. Our sales right now are averaging between $10,000 to $20,000 a minute on QVC, which brings us to an average of about somewhere between $4.5 to $5 million in sales. That shipment that you see Beth standing on top of was sold out in the equivalent of 4.5 minutes. Next slide. Okay, this one, I apologize. I wanted to show you a video. TTI Industries is a developmentally challenged group that's in West Bend. They have about 75, they call them clients that are there. They have emotionally distressed. Anyway, They are a job shop that's there. We use them exclusively now for all of our packaging. And it's fantastic because it's obviously a good rate for us to assemble domestically. But the other thing that we found out was some of these people with sensory issues, they really liked working with the colors of the grate plates. So that actually worked out very, very well.
Now, is this the old is this the Threshold?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. Where you and I worked in high school.
Yeah, that was too hard to work for me. Anyways, go ahead.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, this is a copy of one of the purchase orders that we actually get in from QVC. That is a staged shipment. It's in the process of going out. It's just a snapshot of in process. I wanted to get into the plant to show it to you. But we ship out typically 5 truckloads of product at a time at a cost of about $250,000 per shipment. And that's one of the most recent orders. We get about 5,000 sets on a truck. Right now, like I said, we're approaching our 4th year with QVC. We changed it from the round to the square grate plate. If you go on QVC, you'll notice that they're discontinuing our product, which sounds really bad, but it's actually really good. They are about to come out with a whole series now of decorated plates. So they have floral, we have Margaritaville coming out. One of the things that's interesting is it takes four years in an industry with these guys. Only 2% of the companies make it to the 4th year. Now what we're doing is taking the plate from what is blank to giving it identity. If it's a sports related theme, it's more male dominated. If it's floral or other tropical, it's primarily female they're finding. That's just their demographics. But that's why you're going to start to see some new stuff that comes out. Next slide, Phil. Our reviews right now are hovering around the 4.6 to 4.7. The thing that's interesting about it is, and I don't know what you follow on reviews, but this is a good review for us because we get a lot of negative people that contact us and say, I don't know why you could pick that color purple, and they give us 1 star. Or QVC shipped the order late and they give us 1 star. And looking into it, I can't do anything with that. I mean, basically, a lady ordered plates on a Wednesday and expected them on a Saturday. And she's in Southern Florida and they shipped them from California. That stuff is going to happen. But the point is that the average review on QVC, in order to be in their platinum status, you have to be over 4 stars. So that obviously put us good. The other thing is their airtime is everything to them. And they require that you do $9,000 a minute. And right now we hover between $10,000 and $20,000 a minute. The new square grate plates just hit Amazon. I think that we have 58 reviews. If you look up Amazon and new grate plate, the square set that's out there, as of this morning or last night, we had 58 reviews and every single one of them are 5-star. All right. So the new thing that's out there is, if you can, there you go, thanks, Phil. We went to Walmart and we said, look, we have a plastic plate. We'd like to sell this to you guys. We want to get this to the masses. And they asked what we felt that the product could sell for. We felt that the retail price for the unimprinted plate would cost about $2 at retail. They said that they thought that that was doable, but did we have proof? To date, we have sold over 1 million square grate plates at the average price to the consumer of $3.30. So the club packs that we're assembling and shipping from Oshkosh, you'll be seeing those in the next year. Next slide, everybody's going to like here. We are now officially going to be licensed with the universities. I think you'll like this one. We have the generic Bucky in the lower right. And over here is, we're going to be doing a theme for the universities, iconic images on campus. So if that's a plate that's interesting, all these labels are digitally full color printed. They are molded into the plate. So it's not a sticker that goes on. We actually take the label, put it in the mold, shoot the plastic from behind, it heats up and it is actually molded into the plate. I think I got another picture of the white version that you'll see coming out. And Phil, hopefully by the end of the semester, take a list and we'll supply a set of imprinted plates to your students as well. Next one is our first corporate one that we did for Harley Davidson. That's for some of their festivals. And that pretty much wraps us up as far as the scripted portion of this is concerned. Oh, and of course we got a dog picture. What would we be without a dog picture?
All right, Rick, quick, thanks for that quick synopsis. Tell us about the original patenting story. Not only, the 5,000 on the design, and you talked about putting it together, seeing what your grandkids and kids went through, but how'd you go through that step by step of the patenting process? Because a lot of people would say you can't patent this.
Well, you're hearing a story, and thank you. If one of your folks came out to you and said, you know what, I'm going to invent a product, and you know what, I'm going to make it a plastic plate, I think that we really need some therapy at that point, because like, why in God's name would you invent a plastic plate? There's already plates out there. So when we decided to do this, I made the promise to my wife. I said, don't worry, we'll patent it and nobody can knock us off. Well, first off, patents are not insurance policies. You can still get around patents in some ways. So you need design and utility patents. Design is really simple. I mean, what it looks like in the drawings and what you see is pretty simple. All right, we'll give you a patent because that's your design. We had 6 of those, but the utility patent is the one that held all the weight for us. And what happened is that they said, it's a plate. I don't see any merit in a plate needing a patent. So our patent was turned down. That was not an easy situation to go back to your wife and say, we're not getting a patent. We were turned down. And of course, my wife came back and said, but you promised. Well, that means you should go out and get your patent, right? So I contacted our law firm, which is Foley and Lardner in Milwaukee. Anybody that's familiar with Foley knows that they're one of the preeminent patent law firms across the country. We should be at $500 an hour. But basically, they came back and said, we can't really change much of anything. You have to stay with the original abstract that you wrote. So what that means in the abstract is just a description of why you feel that there's merit for this to have a utility. Now, what we did do is we talked about how the cups that we manufacture fit in the plate, how it does all these things, and it's microwave safe, it's dishwasher safe. But one of the novelties, and I wish I would have brought a video, this plate flies insanely like a Frisbee. We did that on the Food Network, and maybe we can show that later, Phil, for you. But basically, this flies incredible. Fortunately, we did put that in our abstract that it flies like a Frisbee. Most people don't buy plates to fly them like Frisbees. But what happened was, after my wife went to bed that night in tears, I prayed about it and asked for guidance and said, I got to figure this out, how we're going to get a patent. I'm looking at the abstract and they said, you can't change any of the abstract. What came to me was, it's a plate, it does this, it does this, it does this, and it flies like a Frisbee. All right, that's fine. So I changed the order. Said it's a flying disc that can be used as a plate. By the end of the week, our utility patent was approved. So after that, we had our utility patent, and then things really started to take off for us.
From the time you got the idea to when you got the patent, how much time was that, and how much do you remember how much that all cost money wise?
Yeah, the obviously $5,000 for the prototype. Once we got involved with the mold actually cost north of $50,000. And conservatively at that point, we were probably between $30,000 and $40,000 in legal. So I would say comfortably under 100 grand. And that's before the first plate was ever even made.
And did you, have you patented anything beyond that, or was that, you've just basically got that one utility and design patent and that's it?
Yeah, we've added some patents since that time. The new square grade plate is like I said before, it's got the slot for the wine glass. I'm actually showing you one of the imprints for QVC. Some people like polka dots. And that's that cutout slot you've seen on plates before, but not with the area to hold the cup and those types of things. So we keep adding to our war chest of patents. Design are easy to come by, and we just keep adding the utilities. We've actually had to defend our patent already because we've had success with sales.
Yeah, can you tell us about that at all without mentioning too many names and getting other people in trouble?
I have no trouble with any names or anything about it. Basically, we had an issue with Meyer out of Michigan. We were informed that our plate was at the Meyer store. And I said, that was really interesting because we haven't sold plates to Meyer. So before we get started, there's three things to defending a patent. One, sounds silly, but you have to have a patent in order to defend a patent. Makes sense. Second is they have to have knowledge that they violated your patent. That can get a little tricky to prove that. And then the last part is you have to find a wallet, something to go after at this point in order to, get a settlement or something to that effect, or to achieve some kind of compensation. So basically what was happening with Meyer was we had presented to Meyer, the buyer knew about our product. There were possibly a half a dozen emails going back and forth and samples being sent in. They work with a company in Thailand, of all places. I forget the name of it now, but they knocked it off. They just sent it overseas. The interesting thing about it is they not only knocked it off, they put their name on the packaging as their private label brand. And the price that they were paying for the plate was the same price that we had quoted them. So I reached out to Meyer and we got crickets. They didn't want to talk. They didn't want to do anything. And finally, I got through to their merchandising department because the buyer was no longer going to return my calls. And she said, I really shouldn't be talking to you about this. You should be an issue that you should have your attorney contact us. I said, why? Well, I assume you're going to be suing us. I said, well, I don't know what we're going to be doing, but we need to get this worked out. Anyway, she said, well, what is your proposal? I said, well, you put the product in the stores. It wasn't a lot. It was like 10,000 units. I said, my proposal is this. I said, let's leave the attorneys out of it and sell through the product that you have and then buy our product. And the response was, that's it? You're not going to sue us? I said, no, not interested in suing you, because one of the downsides to working with retailers like this, whether it be Target, Walmart, Meijer, or those, you're blacklisted. You're litigious, and even though you could be right, you are blacklisted. So basically they did it. We met with the buyers and we got together with them. We established a purchase order, and they have been buying our product. So that was recorded. They conceded to the fact that there was an error, and that was added to our patent. So our patent was successfully defended against the Orient. And the thing that I'm probably the most proud about that was we didn't have to pay any legal bills, because when we did reach out to Foley, I'm thinking, okay, go get them, guys. We got a patent. They said, yep, we will start that process right now. We need a retainer for $25,000. And that should get us through our initial arguments and our initial letters to them. I said, all right, but we're going to get all that money back. Well, it's not certain. I said, well, what's it going to take to defend this? It said it could take $250,000 to defend this. And I said, if we win, we'll get paid for this. Not necessarily. You might win, but you may not get your money back. So obviously this was a much more effective way of defending that patent.
So from the time you got the idea, patented it, and before you even started shipping product, you had what, like probably $100,000 or so of your own money into it?
Yes. Yes.
When did you reach the point where you said, okay, if we want to make this like big and put a lot more money into the machines and all that stuff, did you have to seek outside investors? And if so, who invested, and what was that like when you started having to, maybe look at hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of investment?
Sure. Our next step was to automate and to go to a 4-cavity mold. That 4-cavity mold was $150,000. We were still working on monies and self-funding it on our own. Kickstarter and Indiegogo and a lot of those places that you see now were not in vogue at that point. At a closing where one of the realtors was there and we were the mortgage lender, the realtor saw it. We giving out a few of them as closing gifts, and he said, "What's this?" I said, "Well, it's a great plate." He said, "Well, tell me about it." And at that point, we were working with Buffalo Wild Wings in order to get plates in there. He says, "I want to invest." I said, "Well, we're not really having investors." He said, "Well, I'll give you $100,000 for 10%." Went to our attorney in town, just our local attorney, and I reviewed it with him. I said, what do you think about this? He said, well, do you need the money? I said, not at this point. And we went through a couple different ideas. He said, well, maybe what you do is you have some expenses coming up. Why don't you take 50 grand for 5% and give them an option in a year to take another 5%? I said, okay, sounds good. And he said, and one other thing. He said, if you're going to do that, he said, I want in on it. So I had two people that wanted to invest, and those have pretty much been our partners from here forward as far as what we've done. We did end up taking the 100,000 from each of them. They both own a 10% stake in the company, and that's done very well for us.
Excellent. I see we got a question. Deep Tanshu, you have a question. Go ahead. Make sure you're unmuted.
Hey, hi Phil. Hey, have you thought about an exit strategy? And if yes, what is it?
Is that an exit strategy?
Yeah.
We've had a couple people come to us and talk to us about things right now. My wife's response is my favorite. I'm a good listener. We've looked at some people that wanted to leverage it and to help actually have us self-fund it. I'm wide open to anybody at this point. We are now profitable. It costs us, even with the plastic increases, somewhere between 50 to 55 cents to make. And our margins, we sell the plate right now for anywhere between $1.20 to $1.80. So I think our balance sheet looks pretty good. And I haven't gotten any formal offers, but they're out there. I mean, we have the pieces that are there, from the automation to the sales to the patents and being made domestically. So we have a number of products between cups and plates. So I don't know that that answered your questions, but I need to do more thinking about the exit strategy.
Okay.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up to that. What do you think is your most valuable asset? Is it the intellectual property behind the plate? Is it you and your wife, the team, the managerial expertise you bring, or something else?
Well, I would definitely tell you my wife is always my biggest asset. But that by far, she's been the encourager. She's been the champion of it. But the probably the automation, because right now, you know, in this world of knockoffs and everything else, there's not much left on the table as far as people saying they're going to be able to knock you off. They have to make it for cheaper. And the robots that we have now, what predicated that was to have inexpensive labor. But now in the labor shortage that we have right now, our robots, they run regardless. And we don't have breaks. We don't have, you know, healthcare. We don't have all of those things for robots. So I can run 24 hours a day around the clock with minimal human interaction. So I would say my automation, the patents are nice, but I quickly learned that patents were only a placeholder. It keeps honest people honest. And if somebody wants to knock you off, at least you have some recourse, but I wouldn't say that the patents are there. It's just been a fun process. We enjoy the product, and probably I'll be really excited to see what you guys think about it. And hopefully you can like us on Facebook and tell more people about it.
Yeah. Okay. We got several questions here. Jorge, or is it Jorge or George? I can't remember.
Today is going to be George.
Okay, George, you're go ahead.
So I had a question about the patent for the square plate. I'm a little bit confused. Would you be able to clarify what the patent is for the square plate? I've seen that there's a lot of competitors out there that have an acrylic version of the square plate that use it for catering events and more of the commercial side of the food industry. Could you talk more about that, please?
Yes, absolutely. If you notice on the plate, and if I can show it to you here, the difference with ours is a raised area. The one that you've seen with the wine stem cutout doesn't have the raised area. The other thing about it is, if it does have the raised area, it doesn't have the cutout. Those are the areas that we're able to get the design patent on. The other portion of it was we took a lot of the functionality out of this piece and put it into this. We were able to add an addendum to those patents. If you want more information on that, I can get that for you. It's a little bit above my pay grade. if you will, in order to do that. But once we were able to take a concept from the round, a lot of those same patents were put under that, this product was put under that same umbrella. Does it mean that they can't knock us off? There's always that 7 degrees of separation, if you will, which means that 6 or 7 degrees, or whichever one you want to subscribe to, that somebody could do it. Our biggest thing right now, that's why I don't take a lot of stock in our patents. Make sure that you're able to put your big boy pants on and be able to make this competitively. I continually work with Chinese manufacturers to say, what's your cost to manufacture it? And currently, the people that are in the know through Alibaba is somewhere between 65 and 70 cents. So that would be more of a comfort level than the patents would be at that point. But if you want more clarification on that, George, let me know, and I'll be happy to send you more information about the patents.
Yeah, email me and then I'll pass it along. All right.
Sure.
Good question. Colin, you're next.
Sure, thanks. Great presentation. So I was wondering if you mentioned that the reviews on Amazon and QVC weren't very representative of the population and they were skewed towards negative reviews. Have you looked into ways that you can incentivize 5-star reviews?
I was working with Amazon on their Vine program. I think that's been discontinued. That's where you could send out samples to a select group of Amazon people in order to get their reviews on it. We did that. One of the things that was interesting on the Amazon piece was that was when we had the round ones out there primarily. Once those Vine reviews were out there for a period of time, they took them back down because they were only allowed to be a temporary review. I'm learning about Amazon, and any insight that you guys can give us on that would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. Just kind of like a follow-up. I had an experience at an Airbnb where the host left like a tiny bottle of like wine, and next to it it said like leave a 5-star review, like trade you like a bottle, like this tiny bottle of wine probably cost her like $2 for like a 5-star review. And then I looked at the reviews on Airbnb and they were just all 5 stars. Just like, I think the average was like 5.0, which was pretty incredible. So I was wondering if you maybe would give like a discount to like a verified 5-star review on Amazon, or like maybe a free cup or something like that, like to incentivize it.
Colin, are you looking for a job?
Yeah, all the time.
That would be fantastic. Obviously, that Airbnb bought their wine the same place that Phil Greenwood does. But
Yeah.
yes,
Sam's Liquor in Chicago. Let me follow up that. I think when we first met, and you guys had just started for the first year or two, you guys were heavy through the big box retailers like CVS and Bed Bath and Beyond and all that stuff.
Right.
Just describe when it happened that all of a sudden you saw the shift, and this is before the pandemic, when you saw the shift to the Amazons and the the online stuff, and how that all happened. What happened? What was your experience?
Sure. Well, what happened was we were on the Food Network on national TV we call it the poor man's Shark Tank. It was called Food Fortunes. And they had a panel of people that would decide whether they wanted to fund you or not. That evening, after we aired, somebody went to a Bed Bath and Beyond store and said, "You sell the Great Plate?" And we said, "No, we don't know anything about the Great Plate. What is it?" And they proceeded to, their manager contacted corporate, sent a buyer to call us on the phone. And that morning we had a phone call from Bed Bath & Beyond saying they were interested in learning more. Fast forward for 2 years, their total purchases were about 350,000 Great Plates. So that's how that happened. We're still cutting our teeth on Amazon and online. It's very new to us. Again, you're not talking to a manufacturer. You're not talking to a millennial. We made one critical mistake so far with Amazon. We opened it up to third-party sellers, and anybody that wanted to buy it, we gave them a wholesale price, which was great. So we had about 25 people selling the Great Plate online. And the problem was that whoever owned the buy box got the sale, whoever sold it the cheapest. And that was always a challenge because those are the people that had trouble paying their bills. So that didn't work out, and we're back to regrouping. The other reason why we don't sell Bed Bath right now is they're having some financial difficulties. So we had to be careful with that.
Okay, here's a question. Pankaj, you have a question, and there's one in the message section I'll get to after that. Go ahead, Pankaj.
Okay, thank you. Rick, great story, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I have a question, like before investing in the molds for Great Plate and the new Great Plate, did you validate with set of customers? Like, we are planning to do this. Do you like it? Do you think it will work? So like, how do you validate your ideas before like investing into it?
That only sounds intelligent. I mean, that would be the thing to do to check it out. We went with the prototype samples. We took it on a family vacation. We kicked it around, and we came from the theory that it's ready, shoot, aim. Probably could have done a little bit better work on that. A very good question, but we've been pretty lucky. Most people like it, and the only thing that we did to back it up was, if we're going to make it, we're going to make it the way we'd like to use it. And I guess we're not alone in that at this point.
Okay, Falarin has his hand up, so we'll go to him first before I get to the message section. Go ahead, Falarin.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, Rick. Great story. My question is, if you at some point, so two questions. The first is, if you at some point considered licensing this, your patent to sort of like bigger companies to deal with like the distribution and production. And then the second question I have is just like looking at the plates right here on the slide with the dog. I see this is sort of not a frisbee like plate, and I was wondering if how you're sort of defending your market share, or how you're sort of selling this. Is it sort of based off of your brand now, or how you've managed to just expand your products as well from the initial patent?
Sure. Well, let me answer the licensing piece. I think the licensing ship has sailed for us. As far as manufacturing, I think it would be closer to the earlier comment about an exit strategy to sell it. I don't know that there's a whole lot more that a company could do other than to acquire our assets now and be able to do it. Our molds are high production molds. From what I understand from people that have licensed their products for manufacturing and distribution, they would be pretty much patterning on what we did. We didn't make too many mistakes along that way. I think it would have hastened our growth to be with them. They could have helped us exponentially to get it going ahead. Your second question about how it works as a frisbee, Phil, what I'll do is I'll send you a photo and see if you can bring that up. And let me see if I can get that over to you and to show how that works.
You texting it or emailing it?
I'll email it. Hang on, and hopefully I can get it to that part on the slide that works correctly for you. And I apologize. I listened to most of that, and I don't know that I answered your question very well. As far as the licensing piece, we're open to licensing it. We're open to making that transition. We're open to virtually anything at this point. I mean, I don't mean to sound vague when I say that, but if there's an opportunity out there and it behooves us to do it, we will go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I think you missed my question a little bit, but thanks for sharing that. So my question is, like, in the early days, once you had the patent, I'm sure there was a point where you had to decide how you wanted to sort of go to market. Yep. With the product, if you were going to sort of produce it yourself, or was that even an option for you to like license it, and sort of why did you not go that route in the early days?
We talked to one company out of Milwaukee. It was called Norman Direct, and they were the ones that were responsible for doing the Snuggie, which obviously reached cataclysmic sales. They did the King James Bible, which was read by some famous author. I forget it. Anyway, there was that, and then there was a product made in Sussex, Wisconsin, called Mr. Lid. which was nothing more than a leftover container with the lid that snapped over it. They looked at our product and they said, it just doesn't have merit. We don't see this thing taking off.
Right.
And we had a bad taste in our mouth after that. So as far as how we decided to sell it, the only thing at that time, we weren't buyers on Amazon or online. We just thought we'd contact some of our local retailers. And where did we go shopping? We went to Menards up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We told them that we had just filmed on the Food Network. We would be airing that night coming up. They bought 3 truckloads of product and they put it on the shelves. And I remember when we filmed in Burbank, California, we said Menards and CVS interchangeably 3 or 4 times during the filming. And by the time we aired that night, they cut out Menards on everything. So Menards fired us the next morning, but they sold out 3 truckloads of product.
Awesome.
Interesting. All right, there's a question in the chat session from Aris. Where do a majority of your sales come from, online or from still the big box or other channels?
Well, what happened with big box was we were doing well, but I take the product in, demonstrate it, show it to people and say, here's what it does, this and this great. The buyer grabs it, says, I love this, I'm taking it home, I'm going to use it. But when you put this product on the shelf, what does it look like? Looks like a chip dip. They put it in the middle of the aisle, halfway down on the shelf, and the product wouldn't sell because identity. We even went and put packaging on it that showed what it did, but it still didn't do that. So they buy it, the Albertsons would buy it, and they received average reviews. I think now that you'll see the new square grade plate hitting the shelf, people are pretty self-explanatory. We are now doing a half pallet display for Walmart. I believe we'll be in 1,000 stores come spring, and I think that's 1 million units alone for their opening order. That will be our best salespeople, because what happens, competitors shop Walmart, we'll be in big box in a bigger way that way. Most of our sales right now are coming from online and from QVC. And the other thing that we're looking at doing right now is we're going to be doing some B2B, where people are using it at different festivals. That's where we're at right now.
Got it. Okay. Akilda, if you have your hand up, what's your question?
Actually, so my question is that can you speak about your machinery capability? Like, can we make something else in your shop, like other than the plates? Like, do we have any capabilities there right now?
Capabilities of making additional product?
Yes, I mean, like something else other than the plates. Like, I mean, actually, like if you want to add new product lines and stuff, do you have to go out and purchase new machinery, or you have the capability to retool the current machinery to make it happen?
Yes. We're not the actual manufacturer. We contract a manufacturer in Oshkosh to do it. We would be interested. We get a lot of submissions to us now that, make it sound interesting. We do have an additional product. I mean, this is the coaster. It's just a coaster. If you look online, it was designed to sit in the grass or sit in the sand, and all it does is it holds your cup from tipping over. That was a product that was taken off from one of the things that you just talked about, and we sold that to Bed Bath & Beyond at the time. I think they ordered 165,000 of those. That was a product that was out there, and also competed with China on that one, and we were able to make it. I think our manufacturing cost on that were like 30 cents, and I think China's were like 33 cents. And the thing that I found, that when you compare yourself to overseas, if your price to manufacture is 60 cents and overseas can make it for 30 cents, there is no benefit. They love the US product, but if you're not competitive, it's just not going to work. In this case, we were competitive, and now we're doing well with that product as well.
Okay, thank you.
Love to talk to you about a new product.
Yeah.
So you
follow up onto that. Sorry, sir. Like, just a quick follow up on that. Because of the supply chain issues happening right now, do you see any problem with the plastic resins and other raw materials which is used by your manufacturer?
Resin prices right now have risen from about 62 cents to $1.43 per pound. We're still reeling from that. The only good news part of that is that we're on the same level playing field that everybody else is. We're all dealing with raw materials. Excuse me. In that regard, that's fine. So everybody has to have their price increases. I do see that coming back in line, kind of like the lumber industry right now. So what'll happen is that somebody will break away from that, and oil hasn't changed. This is a petroleum-based product, so oil drives a lot of these prices. I would think that by spring of next year, we'll be looking at a parity somewhere around 90 to $1. I don't know that we're ever going to get back to 62 cents, but it ebbs and flows. I right now have no trouble getting product in or plastic in because we're willing to pay the market price. The ones that are having difficulty are the ones that are trying to negotiate closeout prices and trying to keep it back to that 62 cents a pound.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So Rick, when you deal with the contract manufacturer, do you have to purchase the molds and you own those or the machines and then they do it for you, or how?
They own the machine. Yeah, they own the machines. I own the molds. We have just north of $1 million in molds right now. And we have new products that we're actually looking at bringing out. But no, they own the machines. Most of our molds fit in 300 and 400 ton machines. So it's a pretty standard size molding. We wanted to manufacture in the US. We will continue to manufacture in the US. And being Wisconsin based, we really wanted to find a mold or manufacturer that does the molding in Wisconsin. Due to the high degree of automation, the labor component is not so much a factor. Sometimes in the Southeast, we find some beneficial labor savings, but it hasn't been appreciable. I think the delta on it is only about 2% to 2.5% for the labor factor.
Okay, great. All right, back to questions. Colin, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I was gonna ask about the automation process, but related to that, is it just you and your wife as the on the team, or do you have other people who know more about automation that you, as a mortgage broker, probably don't know, like the ins and outs of?
Sure. Well, first off, I'm not a mortgage broker. I'm a mortgage banker. I don't like brokers. So it's just a funny.
Oh, sorry.
We work at a bank. We're reputable. At any rate, no, it's just my wife and I. We have a warehouse where we have a warehouse person, so that would be 3. But basically, we ship from the warehouse on large orders. Excuse me, from the factory on large orders. Warehouse, we do, just the logistics piece. We contract out most of our labor. Our overhead is really low. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. Contract labor is nice because we call it labor a la carte. When we're booming, we're booming. And when we don't have it, we don't have it. And we make a lot of our product just in time to get product out. And that's another advantage because, logistically, bringing it across the pond takes 30 days. Right now, our production that we can produce, most of our orders are shipped within 30 days. And that's one of our best selling features.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Logan, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Rick. This has been great. I really, when I first saw this, I said you need to throw a Disney princess on there and to sell a ton. And I love when you came out with the college licensing piece. I think that's going to be great. It looks fantastic. Awesome. I'm curious to know, what those deals, what that contract negotiation looks like from a startup small business perspective. Because I think the MBAs anyway see this a lot from massive billion-dollar brands licensing. What does it look like from a startup's perspective of approaching deals?
Yeah, the licensing right now with the NBA and the NFL hovers between 16 to 19% for the most part. The other thing that they were asking for a couple of years ago is a guarantee. Typically, the NFL wants $250,000 per year as far as using their licensing, which means they're guaranteed a royalty of at least $250,000. That has changed with the devastation of retail. two things happened. First off was the vetting process of paying the $250,000. Second part of it is what was your retail distribution and what was your reach? Well, not a lot of people have retail distribution right now. And if they do, it's waning at best. So they're cutting a lot more deals. The other thing is that there's co-brokes that are out there. There's companies that hold a license for the NFL, and they'll charge you 20% to it's upward to 25%. And as a result, the majority of that goes to the licensee, but they take an override. So they'll group brands like ours in order to do this. We're looking at taking that on right now. But you know, it's a process. What happens is that when the brand is on there, whether it be Disney, like you mentioned, or you know the NFL or just University of Wisconsin, it now has not only the uniqueness of the product, but it has an identity. I remember with my daughter was growing up, anything that had Pretty Princess on it, or you know, Barbie or something like that, she had to have. She wouldn't eat off of anything different than that. And you know, that's what she had to have, whether it be her utensils or whether it be her plate or whether it be her cup. I remember hand washing it for her before she would sit down and eat. So those are the identity pieces that are out there. We're just getting involved in that. And sometimes people will they'll buy it for that very reason. I still can't find myself, you might want to turn the recording off at this point, Phil. I will never eat off an Ohio State plate, for example.
Oh, no, we'll leave that on.
All right.
All right. All right. All
I
right.
do have a follow-up, Rick. Is there any exclusivity involved in that licensing? Like, can Hefty still come out with the plate, a paper plate, or is there exclusivity involved?
No, there actually isn't. I mean, if somebody wants to manufacture this, Chinet is owned by a company by the name of Huhtamaki down in Kansas City. We've talked to them about it. And one of the issues that we have is, you know, do we make a disposable one? I've taken a position that I'm not going to make a disposable plastic version. I have a problem with the sustainability, and I don't want it showing up in the oceans and those types of things. So I really want ours to be setting a standard on that. The other thing about it is that there is an opportunity to do a paper one, but one of the things that we're looking at right now is that where this liner is here, it looks like we're going to be coming out with a paper liner for it, where you can drop it in, you can have it dirty, you can throw it out, paper goes back biodegradable rather quickly, and you still have a clean plate at the end of your tailgate. I mean, if you're having a party, let's say it's an event at the business school, and you want to take your plate home with you after they gave it to you. Let's say the university does business school plates, and it's really nice, you want to take the plate home, but who wants to take a dirty plate home? That paper liner would be the piece that we would have in there and take that out.
Got it. Okay, Sarah, you've had your hand up for a while. What's your question?
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation, first of all, Rick. So, and I really actually want to catch up on the statement you just made about not wanting to produce products that are disposable, because my question goes in the direction that you said that the good thing is that the plastic that you use is recyclable for the plates.
Yeah.
I'm not super, I don't have a lot of knowledge around how you get your resources, but would it be a consideration to use recycled plastic to produce the plates, or does that, does the fact that you say it's recyclable imply that already?
No, the problem that we run into, Sarah, is that post-consumer product, I have to be very cognizant of what's in there because it's a food grade product. And if I don't know the origin or any of the contaminants that could be in there, I can't have it be food safe. So depending upon where I get the product from, we can use recycled product if it's not consumer used. For example, if there's an overstock of plates or something else that was plastic that we know exactly that it was virgin resin, I can use that and repurpose that stock as opposed to it going in a landfill. So if it was, let's say it was cups or something along those lines that consumers were using, and we bought it for scrap and we reground it and molded it into these plates, I could do it. But if it was something that was tainted, I couldn't use it.
Thank you. Very interesting. I didn't know about these legislations. Thank you.
All right, Megan, you have your hand up. We'll go, Megan, then I have a question from Aris in the message thing, and then we'll wrap it up. So go ahead, Megan.
Thanks, Phil, and thank you, Rick, for the presentation. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about your social media strategy. I know you mentioned you have a Facebook page, and I think you mentioned Instagram at one point, but like in what capacity do you use social media? And have you ever considered like working on Instagram? Now there are bloggers that have hundreds of thousands to millions of followers, and they often will work with brands to help promote their products. And then use a link for their followers to be able to just swipe up and make a purchase. Is that something you've ever considered?
Something that I'm just learning about right now. And it's something that I would be thrilled. If anybody has any suggestions, if anybody has any interest in working with us, yes, we are looking at working with a gal. She contacted us. I think she has a 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. And her proposal to us was, it was a flat fee. She produced 7 to 10 videos a month for us. She would promote it on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, those types of things. And then we could use the product. We could edit it, make it into different things, you know, manipulate it. I'm wide open. That's one of the things that probably has me the most excited about this product is the upside potential, because we've done none of that. And we've had the successes that we've had to date. So it's more demonstrable. It's when you get to see how people use it. And obviously I've now gotten a little bit of an introduction to like the TikTok and some of the other entertainment versions of the video. And we had somebody just send us recently, I don't know if you saw the movie Crocodile Dundee, where they're referring to this knife, where the guy says, that's not a knife, this is a knife, this is a knife, mate. And the guy comes back and he says, that's not a plate. And they're tailgating, now this is a plate, mate. You know, and it's like, that's the kind of silliness, but they did that. And all of a sudden we had like 500 sales off of that thing. So I'm very interested. Good point.
Okay, got it. All right, thanks, Megan. Colin, you go ahead. You got your hand up again.
Yeah, thanks. This is my last one. So I saw your logo. How did you come up with that? And are there any thoughts about modifications you might be making to the logo?
Yes, you guys are catching all of my Achilles heels. Yes, we need a new logo. So that's in the works. Obviously, we go from the round to the square great plate. We do need to have that changed. That was very Bush League in the beginning. So that look for that to be changed soon.
You can make like a G, like with the square plate, and like the G like in the middle, like have it around that circle.
Love it.
Maybe make that.
I'll tell you what, send a sketch to Phil. If we use it, I'll pay you for it.
Sweet.
Or a lifetime supply of plates.
Well,
okay,
hey, Phil, we went to school with Rick Sahanic. Do you remember him?
No.
Okay, Rick Sahanic graduated from UW when Phil and I did. I'll give you an idea how old we are. Rick took a job with Tom Pyle at Railback. And at the time, Tom Pyle was on the board at the university. And that's when Barry Alvarez tasked everybody to come up with a new W. That's where we had the motion W. Sahanic only worked for a year at Railback. He now receives a royalty for every W that's been used. So he's doing pretty well. I'm not saying that the new Great Plate logo would replace the UW logo as far as what Sahanic did, but I think it'd be pretty cool.
Oh yeah. One last, this is from Aris in the chat session. International, have you gone international or do you plan to? And what is, if you haven't, what's kept you from it? Or is it just lack of time or patenting or what?
You know what frustrates me, Phil, about your class? They're a whole lot smarter than I am. So this should be an inspiration to you guys, for somebody who's not that smart to go through all this and to figure out a plate. Yes, we would love to go international. We would love to do all of those things. Step up. I mean, it's an oyster that's in front of us. We would love to get into that. Stay tuned. Hopefully I have something to tell you about social media next year. But for a little company that's sold, I think, about 9 million plates, and stumbled along in the process and been able to defend ourselves, I think international is on the horizon. We're intrigued by Amazon because we can ship to Canada and Mexico with it. And I know there's a piece that's overseas. But any of you guys that want to help us out, we'd be thrilled. Let's stay in touch. I mean, you know, we'll send you plates, we'll send all this stuff moving forward. Let's do this as UW alumni.
Good point. All right, Akildev, you have your hand up. One last question.
So actually, my question is, Rick, do you have any succession plan in place? Like, is there anybody in the company which can really step up, like somewhere long time in the future to like replace you and your wife and run it, or like anything like that in your mind right now?
We have 6 kids. None of them are interested in the product. They just are interested in when we receive a buyout that they would be happy to with their inheritance. I say that's somewhat amusing. They know the challenges that we've been through. It's just my wife and I right now, and I don't have a succession plan. I've had a couple people approach us that know the story, and they say, you know, at some point we'd like to talk to you about doing this. Well, every year our sales go up. We'll see what happens. I don't know that we're a prize for being taken over, but I think we've done pretty well to date. But let's see what happens in front of us.
Okay, thank you.
Rick, let me add, this will be the final question. We'll close on this, but I always like to ask the entrepreneurs and founders this: what right now is keeping you and or Beth up at night from a business perspective?
You mean other than you calling us?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What keeps us up at night?
Any
well,
issues?
There's been a lot of issues. I mean, we addressed some of those before as to, you know, what do we do? Do we build inventory in advance? I mean, some of our manufacturing, we've had the opportunity of doing manufacturing when we didn't have sales. Do we build inventory so we can respond faster? Cash flow is always a concern. I mean, when we do millions of dollars in business and your cash is out there, you're extended. We had a little bit of a scare with retail for a while there when they were paying their bills a little slower. One of the retailers who I can't name, they were into us for like $300,000, and they came back and said, well, we'd like to negotiate the receivable. I said, come again? And he said, instead of paying you $300,000, would you accept the check for $100,000 for what we owe you? No, I'm not into that. But that caused a little bit of a problem for a while there. So we ended up having to take payments until that got paid up. But you know, there's some things that are out there. That's why I think more of the online and the Amazon piece would be the case. But it's been a good run so far. I really appreciate you guys listening. I don't know where an hour went.
Well, Rick, we want to thank you for taking the time. Usually Beth is with you, but she's got stuff going on. But again, thanks so much for doing this, and good luck. And I hope to get those plates real soon so we can pass them out and let these guys try them out and kind of go from there. But again, thanks a lot for taking the time.
What's that?
Thanks for taking the time to talk.
Oh, of course. You're welcome, guys. Best of luck, and on Wisconsin.
And I will now, class is now over. I will end recording. We'll hang around for a few minutes if you want to, unless Rick, you got to go somewhere.